In the SFL, it's season 21, week 11 edition. Stephen Hacker is back, filling in for Mike O'Neill for the third time this season. Hacker, good evening. How was your weekend?
Had a great weekend. Got a lot done. Had a big win. Not going to see any of the highlights here tonight, but overall, it was a great weekend. State of Texas and other football didn't have quite as good a week, so here at Fort Worth, we'll take it where we can get it.
Yeah, Fort Worth continues to dominate and roll. They top Minnesota. We'll talk more about them later. Florida clinched the East. Canton clinched the North. And San Diego went off, Hack. But first, we start in Denver, where history was made, and it wasn't for the Nightwings. How about this second play of Denver's offense? Aaron Gooden with the sack. Remember, Denver ended their game against Vancouver with a bunch of sacks given up, and then they give up that one. Very next play, Gooden again. Back-to-back sacks. That's how the game started for the Denver Nightwing offense. Seattle rocking those breast cancer awareness uniforms. So 7-0 type attack. Are you kidding me? Stiff arm. 13-yard carry for the first down as Seattle continued to roll in the first quarter. That is a ridiculous run. Type attack can do it on the ground, can do it through the air. Look at the pocket. And then Baloo Scott, who fell earlier in the play, breaks a tackle, spins away from another, and scores. 14-0 Seattle. Now 14-7 in the second quarter. It's Baloo Scott again. And the crazy thing about this game, Hack, is she wasn't even the star. She was the star of the highlight reel.
Yeah, and I think what you're alluding to is the fact that they're the QB under the center is the reason why Seattle is the talk of the league right now. They are looking really sharp. They've turned their season, or they've turned their franchise around in just one season, and it really starts with type attack, and he's really something special that they have there in Seattle.
Gene Struthers completes it to Jeremy Mosley, then dumps it off to R.E. Mills. Okay, R.E. stiff arm to Bryant Jr. makes it 21-14. It's still a ball game here for Denver midway through the second quarter. Hey, a couple minutes later, Denver's got the football back. They're back in the red zone, and Bailey O'Shaughnessy is in. We're tied at 21 with 3:10 to go in the first half. Bit of a shocker as Denver's keeping up with Seattle until type attack finds Pauly Truth in the end zone. An emotional game for Pauly Truth. More on that later in the show. Attack again to start the third quarter. That's caught for the score. T. DeQueen. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. 17 unanswered for Seattle. 38-21. Nemesis ball again. 3rd and 10. Type attack again. Gus Scott. So T. DeQueen, Gus Scott, Baloo Scott, Pauly Truth, everyone scoring. Baloo on another carry, and Baloo has another touchdown. Seattle pouring it on in the second half. 51-24. Extra point made it 52 in the fourth quarter. 4:40 to go in the fourth. Gene Struthers trying to save face, picked off. Daniel Valentine, and as Tim Hackett said on the broadcast, it's Valentine's Day in Denver. All the way for the score, and Seattle puts up 59 at this point with the pick six. Would end up getting 62. Don't want to leave the highlight reel without Gene Struthers. Hey, he can run it into for the touchdown, but 62-31. Seattle doubles up Denver. Denver falls to 3-6, and Seattle gets to 8-2. More importantly, Seattle wins the Pacific Division. They are the first team not named the Vancouver Legion to ever win it. And Ashley Jackson sat down with Pauly Truth, who's very familiar to the Monday Night Spectaculars. This game was pretty special to him.
Welcome back to The Chat, where I am joined with a good, great, fantastic friend of mine, Mr. Pauly Truth. Oh, man, one of the owners of the newly crowned Pacific Division champs, Seattle Nemesis, coming off their fifth win in a row, winning this game 62-31 over the Denver Nightwings. Man, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fabulous, Ashley. I appreciate you having me here with you. What a feeling. I'll tell you what, after that game against Denver, feeling good, man.
I know you are. So, man, did you ever feel like you guys were going to be in this position to actually be number one in the Pacific Division? I know as long as I've known you, you've always been probably one of the biggest fans since you've been on that team of the Nemesis, and always trying to push them to that limit. But did you ever think that you guys would make it this far?
Yes, absolutely. Coming into the season, I was under the impression we were going to be pretty good, but I set my expectations really high, and I'm glad I did because we're here in this position now and living up to all of the hype and just going out there and proving everyone to what we actually are as a team. And got to give shout out to everybody on the team from the bottom up. Every single person in Seattle has helped get us to where we are in just a short time, and we haven't even scratched the surface. Ashley, that's the scary thing, that who knows what the limit is for us, and we're going to find out each week how good we can be and slowly get to the top. I don't know, I'm just rambling. I'm just excited, happy to be here in Seattle with this team, with the family, and vibes are good right now, Ash.
That's good to hear. You said that this particular win means something much more to you. Would you care to share with us what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. The morning of our game, it was yesterday, Friday. Um, got a call from my mom. My pap died. He passed away. Uh, Prayers out to us. Doing a little better. It's the old, just glad he's not in pain anymore. So I understand it. It's part of life. But to go out there that same day to get a touchdown, everything kind of all came together at that point, and it was just it was a special moment for me. It meant a lot to clinch the Pacific Division, and meant a lot for the team. And as in our third season, it's just it's a really great time in the SFL and in Seattle, and the sky's the limit. And I wish we didn't have a bye week this week. I'm mad. Cam, put us on tomorrow.
I know you're ready to get back out there and start cooking again, but um, I will say a special prayer for you and your family for peace of mind and for acceptance. Condolences to you and your family. And, you know, I can understand why that win meant so much to you, and I hope everybody else does too. I am truly excited to see how far the Nemesis is going to go. And I'm curious to know one more question. I have one more question for you. Um, how do you plan, or how do you guys think you will plan for your next opponent coming off this bye week?
It's just gonna be business as usual. We're all ready to go. We're all ramped up. So as far as what the game plan is, we already have some eyes on it. Special shout out to Aaron Gooden. He's doing a great job all season long. Special shout out to Ty. The game plans he's coming up with are phenomenal, and it's just a whole group effort. TJ, Doug, Ethan, Fox, everyone from the ground up. It's name of my one album. It is essentially what we're building here in Seattle from the ground up, and third season, and we're excited to be here. Happy to be here, Ash.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Pauly. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Ash.
And good luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you. As to you.
All right, bro. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Pauly, lost my grandfather 6 or 7 years back now, and Pauly had to step away from Monday Night Broadcast this season and do, partly to, family stuff. And, we wish all the best to them. And as proof, Hack, you never know who's struggling out there. You never know, who's having a bad day or, what's going on. Treat other people with kindness, #ChooseHappy, all that good stuff. But Seattle didn't have to choose happy. They've made their own. How shocked are you at, what they have accomplished just in this short time with how they've turned around this franchise?
I would say I'm shocked. If you had asked me for a preseason prediction of their record, it would be nowhere near where they are right now. And that's a testament to, as Pauly said, they've got a staff that's in there working for them every week. They've got ownership that cares, that are present, and they're putting in the work. They're making sure that everything is being taken care of, and game plans are being put in on time. And you heard him say, they don't want the bye week. They want to keep competing, and that's a healthy sign in your front office, in your coaching room, and stuff like that. So you love to hear that from Seattle. And again, to mirror what you said and what Ashley said, Pauly, our thoughts are with you. If you need anything, man, just reach out. There's a bunch of good people here that are in your corner and want what's best for you, man. So if you need anything, let us know. But it sounds like you got a great staff there that's able to pick up and fill in for you. You needed some time to yourself, and that's a great thing when the weight of the world isn't on your shoulders. You've got a great team supporting you. So congratulations to you. And, again, our thoughts are with you. And congratulations so far on a great season.
I think the most surprising thing about this game was that they averaged 11.2 yards per pass and 9.6 yards per play. When you consider that they won by 31 but passed 38 times and only ran 15 times, you're talking about averaging over 10 yards a play, which is like impossible. I mean, that's just total domination from Seattle. Pauly mentioned Type Attack, who's putting together the game plans on this team. Their number one pick this season, and we put up the most recent number one picks in this league going back 6 seasons. Mike Ryan in San Diego, which is Tyler Falk, who's calling the game later on tonight, Leon Thunderman, Douglas Brown, Bryant James, Gina McFly, and then of course Type Attack. And what stands out from this list, Hack, is that all 6 of these players are still active, right? So it's been 3 years, and teams have really not missed on these number one selections because they're all still present. But for you, and obviously there's been some major number one picks from over 3 years ago, but for you, where does Ty fit in kind of with this class of top draft picks?
Well, when I look at it, Mike Ryan, Tyler Falk has really big shoes to fill there. I think that Tyler or Mike Ryan has definitely lived up to that number one selection. So Patak being in that group, that's a good group to be in. So and as far as like coaching ability, I look at Gino McFly, somebody that has put some game plans together, has tried to compete, has done all-star games, and I know helps out the Charleston coaching staff. So when you look at that, Patak, again, checks that box. Great player, check the box. Off-field contributions, checks the box, right? Look at somebody like Brian James, great player on the field, but not very present in the league, right, or in the front office. Look at somebody like Doug Brown, super present in the game plan, but not really present in the front office or anything like that. Leon Thunderman, kind of the same thing, very present on the field, but not so much off. So when I'm looking at this list, I would, if I had to, and I'm going to, I would start Mike Ryan, Type Attack, Gino McFly. That's if I had to go back and redraft. All these guys were there. Mike Ryan would be my number one, but Type Attack, being able to put in a game plan. If you're an ownership group that really needs that, it's easy to put him number one just because of the coaching, what he's willing to do for your game plan every week.
It's interesting that the last 4 seasons we've had 4 different positions chosen: running back, strong safety, linebacker, quarterback. Brody Gulch was the season before Mike Ryan, and I believe it was Johnny Pickler the season before that, who's obviously made.
And you missed David Horrell in there.
David Horrell was in there, and then maybe Johnny this season. So a lot of notables, and that's always good to see. Take a look back down memory lane, Hack, to see that these teams. There's a reason why you go number one in the SFL. When you've got everyone to pick from, it really makes a difference. It can be a franchise changer. And for Seattle, Type Attack has been a franchise changer for them. So with every triumph in sports comes a hardship, because everything balances out in life. And Vancouver took the brunt of Seattle's Pacific Division takeover. They were hammered this week by San Diego, 69-26. San Diego matches Minnesota's 69 points they scored in week 1 at the convention. And Vancouver's now given up over 50 points over 3 times this season. They obviously are going through, I can't even call it a rebuilding phase, Hack, but they are in need of adjustment, in need of fine-tuning heading into next season, but they still have, a very solid core. But to see them lose the game like they lost on a night where Seattle took the division from them was pretty shocking. Yeah,
definitely. I think this is, it's maybe a gut check moment for Vancouver. They're in very unfamiliar territory for themselves, and I think that, I mentioned it on the Streets Are Talking in the chat there, that they have the opportunity to either kind of crumble, or they have an opportunity to kind of pick themselves up by the bootstraps. Now, the season may not be where you want it to be, but you can learn a lot about your franchise, about your staff, about your players, right? And you can start looking towards the next season. So even though the season may not be where you want it to be, you can't give up on it. There's plenty to learn in the remaining weeks that you can use to build upon. So I just think that Vancouver just had the unfortunate, my personal opinion, I think they had the unfortunate position of they had a lot of players. And I think they were trying to figure out how to get everyone involved. I know Andy Hamilton and their coaching staff there in Vancouver they don't bring players on just to have them ride the pine. Excuse me. And so they might have got caught up in some of that, trying to adjust to a new game, trying to adjust to maybe having a little bit extra depth in places they weren't used to having it. And that might have contributed to something. They might have been trying to do too much, and now we're trying to recover from that and find themselves on the slide a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of people would say they won the draft this offseason because they fleeced some teams on some trades. Going to San Diego just for a second, 14.5 yards per pass. Johnny Pickler was sensational for San Diego, and they are right back in the mix at 5-5. Playoff standings coming a little bit later in the show, and why Vancouver should not panic in terms of where their season is right now. We'll talk about their schedule just a little bit. But back to the highlights. Let's go to Los Angeles, where last night Mexico City was in L.A., and Ray Bentley was off and running early. Mexico City had won 2 straight coming in, trying to win out. That's what Mike Daggs was referencing all week long. We may not make the playoffs, but we're going to win out. Well, not if Tommy Rahman, the fullback, is going to be doing things like that. One-handed catch down the field, down 7-0. Sully Richardson really has just been ridiculous, and he's getting everybody involved in this game plan. Jimmy Foster, 5 straight weeks without an interception for Sully Richardson. That has got to easily be a record. 2nd down and 10 as Sully winds out to the left and then fires back to LZ Pryor. If you're keeping track, that's the 3rd different receiver or pass catcher to catch something on this drive. Then on 1st and goal, Sully Richardson to Chris Lee in the back of the end zone. That's your 4th different receiver, and that ties the game at 7. What a drive for Los Angeles. Now, on the punt, earlier in the game, Mexico City's returner got hurt, and the bobble from Jeffrey Daggs. Look who's there to recover. Tommy Rahman on the fumble recovery gives it to Los Angeles, and then Sully Richardson dumps it off to Logan Jack, who breaks a tackle and scores a touchdown. 14-7 L.A. now out in front. 3rd and short. Toss to Bentley. In real time, that looked like it was an easy first down, but upon review, knee was down. Close call. Greg Ward, nice stop. So Mexico City gets a field goal. 4th and inches, going for it. Logan Jack's got the first down early in the 3rd quarter, and L.A. continues to hum. How impressed have you been with Sully Richardson in this offense, Hack?
Yeah, I really think that he's been probably the biggest midseason improvement. He's really on fire right now, and I think a lot of that is solely in the coaching staff are now on the same page offensively about what they want to do. And I think that's a big point for them, is that they found a way, their coaching staff has found a way to get their playmakers making plays where they were struggling with that early in the season. Now they're finding themselves competing in games and winning ball games, which is a huge mark for their coaching staff. So shout out to them for doing the work. I know they took some of what I said in the streets are talking a little personal, but I didn't mean it that way. I was just calling how I saw it. But again, anything to help motivate you guys. If you want bulletin board material out of that, have at it, because I love to see LA when they compete. I think the league is better when LA is competing there, and it's nice to see them getting some wins.
Rochelle Colston sealed the deal with her interception. Jimmy Foster had his first career touchdown as well, and LA gets to 4-5. They are definitely not out of it yet. Houston at Alamo City as we shift gears to the south and setting the tone. Mike St. Green for the evening. Deep shot down the field, gets the ball to the 34-yard line and got Houston off to a hot start. They lost a very close game to Alamo City earlier in the season at home where they had a bunch of red zone troubles. That would not be their issue tonight. This night. Dave Berg gives it off to Josh Slapp, who picks up a clean block from Greg Corky. Look at Goldie Morrison getting down the field, one block after the other. as Slap gets down inside the 5-yard line. That was a pretty play from Houston. They got Josh Slap involved in the pass game early and often. Here he takes a toss, and Josh Slap's in the end zone. 4-6, 7-0. Houston on top. Hey, how about this for a tone setter? Brad Jones. One guy gets a touch on him. Two, that's not enough. Brad Jones all the way to the end zone for the score, and we were tied at 7 just like that, just 3 minutes into the ball game. Brad Jones giving some love to the camera. After a Houston sack, Ace Fennick stepping up in the pocket, and he fires over to Kenny Hendricks. Everybody gets involved in this Alamo City offense. That is a touchdown. Flash forward 17-10. Dave Burr late in the first half, all kinds of time, fires down the field and finds DR Sim on 3rd and 6. They were calling him Dr. Third Down in this game. He was phenomenal. Then Dan Curtis get up into the sky. Touchdown, ties the game at 17. Now third quarter, Brad Jones, he's out again. Got to contain that guy.
And that was a huge block thrown there on the edge by 55. And when your blockers are working that hard for you, Brad Jones knows what to do. He puts it into overdrive and hightails it for the end zone. Great run there.
Next drive for Houston. Burr drops it off to Slap, now down 10. Again, 3 great blocks on the left side for Slap. Then he picked up a 4th late in the play. I think that was Sim out there deep down the field, and Houston would be in business inside the red zone. 3rd and 6 now, a couple of plays later. Houston trying to keep pace. Dave Burr fires it. That's Sim again. Touchdown. 27-24. At this point, we thought this game was going to be a shootout, but the defenses really came to play. Kind of after this moment, Alamo City would pitch in just a few more points. 5.5 to go in the third. Ace Fennick fires down the field, hits Kendra Wells. They'd go up 34-24. At this point, or at later in the game, it was 34-27. 4 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Kind of in no man's land for Houston. And on 4th and 3, Dave Burr finds Dan Curtis, who had it. Bounces off of his hands. And Alamo City going to hold on and win 34-27. Another close Houston loss. 2 one-score losses to Alamo City. A 1-score loss to Fort Worth as well. And the Houston Headhunters fall to 4-5. More on Houston in a moment, but let's get to Fort Worth, who continues their undefeated streak, knocking off Minnesota 34-6. Minnesota was 2 for 10 on 3rd down, got dominated in time of possession. Heck, you could go all day about the Toros, but give us a minute on what you thought of that victory.
Just the defense played really great. Luis has done a great, excuse me, I get a chance to talk about my team and I get choked up. Luis has done a great job putting in the game plan every week. And I know offensively early in the season, he felt like he kind of had it figured out. But here in the last couple of weeks, it's been really interesting to see what he can come up with defensively. So I think he's still just scratching the surface on what he wants to do with our game plan. But he really put a good one in last week. I mean, 3 defensive touchdowns was great. Great performance.
No turnovers in this game for Fort Worth. They keep a clean sheet again. Jack Wall, the $2 super chat. Hacker Stash is trying to conquer his whole mouth. Fort Worth is trying to conquer this whole league as they are the number 1 seed. They have clinched a playoff spot, and we'll see them next month in the postseason. Back to Houston just for a moment. Cause for concern for the Headhunters. They're 4-5. Their SOV is 378. That's 22nd in the league. The problem is for Houston is they don't play another team over 500. Heck, I think they got to win out because their SOV is not going to climb. They're just too far down in the hole, and all those games they've lost, 2 to Alamo City, to Fort Worth, to Seattle, they needed that to boost that SOV. They didn't get it. Next week, they're at Vancouver. Here's the silver lining for the Legion, though. Week 14, they play Seattle. So Vancouver has a chance to improve that SOV a great deal. Houston does not. Next week's going to be huge for the Headhunters. They got to go get it.
Yeah, and the game that we watched, the ACA highlights and Houston highlights, I mean, that was a prototypical South matchup. Hard hitting, everybody going after it, and Houston's going to have to do that for 3 more weeks, and that's just to give themselves a shot at the playoffs. So I know that they're capable of it. They've shown that they can get into these ball games, but these are winnable games for Houston, and now is the time. If you got to win the games that you need to win to give yourselves a shot. So the pressure right now is definitely on Houston. These are critical games for them.
Back to brag, missed the Pacific Division discussion. That's why you got to get to the show on time. So sorry that you missed. You can catch it on demand. But, Tulsa's going to be fighting for their lives. Mexico City never lays down against Houston. That's always a bloodbath, like you said, in the South. So big things coming up for Houston. They've got to get it moving. Back to the highlights. Let's go to Canton up in the north where the Classics could win the division with a win and a Motor City loss. I don't know how Scar Patterson didn't get sacked there, but Al Dillapre Sr. with the beautiful completion into the red zone. Hack, the interesting thing about Canton that I don't think people talk about, they pass early in games, and they take the lead with the passing game, and then once they get that lead, they sit on Robert Johnson, and they just crush you all day. That was Ryan Owens with the catch inside the 5. Then Johnson gets the score. Canton takes the lead, and Atlanta was playing from behind this entire game inside the 20-yard line. Bryant Dynasty finds Kyle Finnemore just before the half, but that was the first drive Atlanta had really put together all day. Kyle Finna score with the touchdown. Robert Johnson up the middle, wasn't touched. This is what I'm talking about, Hack. Second half is Robert Johnson's time, and he punches another one in for a score. Almost. Atlanta, great defensive stand, forces a field goal, makes it 13-7. Atlanta probably one of the best goal line teams in the league. Scar Patterson, though, he's still slinging it, and Ryan Owens has a touchdown one-on-one on Chris Henry. Ryan Owens says, "King me." They're up 20-7. That is what Canton does in the second half. Dynasty swings it out left, fires. Now it's going from bad to worse, Hack, as Darian gets the pick.
Yeah, and Dynasty just doing what he can to try to get the Swarm back in this one, and sometimes you got to let you got to be a little bit of a gunslinger, and unfortunately for Dynasty, there it put Canton in really good field position. There
you saw Dynasty's numbers. He was 13 of 30 before that pass, but Finnemore gets the completion. 4 minutes to go. They're down 23-7. And look at that. Finnemore beats Connor Darian. Not sure what he was looking at there. Made it 23-13, but the 2-point conversion fails. So Atlanta's really playing from behind now. Bryant Dynasty goes deep. It's picked off again. Connor Darian, have yourself a day. Gets his second pick of the day. And Canton was one step away from taking that division. They get to 6-4. Let's next go to Louisiana, where this pass was deflected off of somebody. It's picked off by a linebacker there for Charleston. It was just that kind of start for Louisiana, and it would be a sign of things to come. Look at this play. Just I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, it looked like the pressure got there right as the throw was off, and it caused a bit of a tipped or errant throw, and then right off the helmet, right into the hands. That's a play of the year candidate. It has to be.
Tommy Utah is sacked, so he was getting sacked. He was throwing interceptions early. There's 5 minutes left to go in the first half, and it's only 3-0. Davius Reed over 150 on the night, but they'd have to settle for a field goal. John Michael Sudduth with the touchdown just before the half. And Louisiana's up 7-6, and they can breathe, but Terrell Sutherland auditioning as a Swan for the one-act play coming up to a theater near you. 13-7, Charleston takes the lead. Now, late in the third quarter, John Lakeman is going to fumble. Picked up by Brian Craven in the red zone. You can't do that, as Louisiana gets a turnover and gets an immediate red zone opportunity. And the Revolution are right back in this thing despite some of their struggles.
Yeah, and they're just so impressive defensively, especially in the front seven. Their defensive line and linebacking core is super stout. And they just made a huge play for their team. That's what they needed. Their defense made a huge play at a critical moment and gave their offense prime field position.
Utah to Lyric Da Vinci in style puts Louisiana back up 14-13 with 2 minutes to go in the third. All seemed well despite a really tough day for Tommy Utah. You want to talk about defense. Charleston's secondary was on point all day. Nick Hoagland with the score. Brian Murphy, the tight end, just destroyed someone at the goal line. We won't talk about them. They have a family. 5 minutes to go, 20-14. Charleston has the lead, and Louisiana pitches the ball out. Weak side fumble recovered by Charleston. What a key turnover, the second fumble in this game. And just like that, the Predators have all the momentum. Now 23-14. Louisiana has fallen behind under 2 minutes to go. That pass tipped up in the air. Another incompletion for Tommy Utah. And that would be one of the biggest upsets of the week. Louisiana 8.5-point favorites. They fall by 9 at home, 23-14 to the Charleston Predators, who keep themselves in it at 4-5. Ashley Jackson caught up with Jacob Clear.
What is up, SFL Nation, and welcome back to PGI, where we are joined with a good friend of mine, Mr. Jacob Clear. He is the owner of the Charleston Predators, and they just came off a fantastic win. Very exciting win over the Louisiana Revolution. How are you doing, Jacob?
I'm well, Ashley, and I hope you are too. Good to be back on PGI. I like to jump on after an important game. And look, it was good to get the season back to a point where we could start to believe in a potential post-season campaign. Obviously, this division makes it so much harder. But lost last week to Baltimore kind of snapped our momentum a little bit. But good to get a win back up, and also to get a win on the road. We haven't won on the road since season 18. I think it's been quite some time. So, really uplifting result.
Absolutely. I know it definitely was. And it was an exciting game in the sense that they had a chance to come back in the fourth quarter. I think it was like maybe 3 minutes left. And you guys, your defense stifled that opportunity by a key interception by Sam Blotner. Go back to that moment and tell us what was going through your mind during that whole time.
Yeah, well, you're right. It was a moment where it looked like it might have started to slip. We had an injury to one of our tailbacks that meant that a backup had come in, and that meant that the offense wasn't quite what we wanted it to be for a large portion of the second half. But it was great for Sam. Sam had a tough week at home against Baltimore the previous week. It was just kind of one of those Sims where he just struggled to contain in the offensive moments where he was involved. So a really good moment for him, because he's been very good for us this season, and he fully deserved that interception and took his chance. And that was a key moment, because we were at that point where we just needed a moment that iced the game away, and he took it.
Tell me, did you have to prepare differently for this game against Louisiana versus the other teams that you had to play against this season?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every team has different strengths and weaknesses that we have to take into account. And obviously, both of these teams have a really important feature back that they run through. And we recognized last week that we were very exposed to TRI gains, and we had to lock that up, because Dwayne Salmons is similarly elite in that sense when they put him out there, and they run him to the outside a lot. So we had to make adjustments to the outside of our defense, and we were putting coverage on, particularly in our base formation defensively. So that was the key point, was can we isolate Dwayne Salmons, which I felt we did, and that's what got us the win, in the sense that we were able to really lock him down and force Tommy Utah to pass. And I think he threw under 30% completion percentage. So it all fell into place defensively, and that's what set us up for the win on the road.
Awesome. Well, everybody is showing improvement, definitely since the start of the season. You guys are definitely one of those teams. I am very anxious and excited to see how you finish and how deep you make it into the playoffs, Jacob. Thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate it, Ashley.
Have a good one. All right, back to you in the booth.
Thank you, Ashley. $10 super chat from Skippy. Happy birthday, Michael Torillo. Some of the best things come in the smallest packages. If you don't know Michael Torillo is short. That's what she's getting at.
And also has like an amazing tenor voice, I believe.
Right.
There's like opera singing. So
way better than this voice. Yeah, we need to get him on here.
Super talented.
He could just sing the whole This Week in the SFL show, and it would be much more entertaining than we are. Back to Canton here for just a second. I would call Seattle explosive, Hack. I would call Canton sneaky explosive. They just do it a little bit differently than everybody else right now.
Yeah, and one of the things that you don't expect is they do kind of when they want to get ahead and they want to grind you down. So when you think of a power back, you don't think of a running back having the most yards from scrimmage in the SFL, right? The longest receiving yards from scrimmage of 79. The longest rush for Robert Johnson this season is 89 yards, leading the SFL, and that's a power back. So very interesting stat there, but yeah, two interesting dynamics there from Seattle, who's just going to air raid you, and Canton, who's going to try to grind you down. It's very, very interesting.
All these teams, especially at the top, they all do it very uniquely and in lots of different ways, and that's a lot of fun. Charleston 4-5. They are right in the thick of it. They're just kind of like Los Angeles, where it's like, okay, they've maybe either exceeded previous expectations or they're about right where they wanted to be at the start of the season, given what they were last season, and both those teams still have a shot. $5 super chat from Jack Wall. Oh, you guys, stop. You're making the entire city of Canton blush. Well, we call it like we see it. And, Canton playing well at 6-4. So they needed a Motor City loss to clinch the North. Would they get it? Florida at Motor City early on. This V8's defense was crazy. Doug Howard with the sack on Ron Cochran's first drop back made it 2nd and 14. Now 3rd down and 14. Ron Cochran off the edge is sacked again. And that would force a 3-and-out for Florida. Matthew Holford with that takedown. Fans in Detroit love it. Love the St. Louis Gladiators throwback jacket. That was pretty cool. Sack Rodney Panani at the end of the first quarter. This game was a scoreless football game. Motor City came to play.
Yeah, and that's what you expect. Motor City has always been a scrappy team. They're used to having their backs against the wall, and so they're a team that is not afraid to come out and fight. So when I saw Florida on the matchup for them, I knew that they were going to come out and try to fight their way through this one.
Christopher Dean down 7-0. He breaks away and gives Motor City some life offensively. 6:34 to go in the first half. We are tied at 7. Motor City offense was barely on the field, much due to Ron Cochran, who was 16 for 20 before this dime, to E.J. Minson just before the half. So 17 of 21 passing in the first half, 14-7. Now, 45-yard field goal just before the half, and Motor City pushes it right. No good. They just never seemed the same after that. 1st and 10 in the third. Bullet Boletsky shut down. He, at one point in this game, Hack, had 33 yards on 17 carries. He was totally blanketed by this Motor City defense. It was pretty impressive. But just as they put Boletsky in the cage, Ron Cochran finds E.J. Minson, who had himself a night for the first down. Florida won this game through the air. Michael Brown's pass intercepted by Evan Carroll. And Florida's starting to pull away now, 20-10, 9:19 to go in the fourth quarter. 3rd and short, and now Bullet Boletsky's starting to get things moving. You can only keep him down for so long, and Florida is wearing down the V8s who are trying to stop a 3-game skid, trying to stop themselves from losing out on this division title. Deep shot from Cochran, caught by Minson down to the 6-yard line, and then Bullet Boletsky would finish them off. Florida would get the win 30-10. Motor City goes to 4-6. Florida is now 8-2. Somebody has got Hacker. Oh, what is
don't read the chat. Just don't read the chat.
All right. Well, if it's not a super chat, I'm not going to read. You should have super chatted it if it was that funny of a comment. Then I would have had to read it, right, Hack? Oh, well.
That's right. And would have got a worse response out of it.
Tulsa at Indianapolis. This may have been the most entertaining game of the weekend. Ryan Roosevelt versus Gabriel Manning. That's what it was all about coming in. There's Roosevelt with a reception. 3rd and goal. Joe Harleman fumble picked up by Travis Arthur. Look at it. He's still going. Picked it up, and he's going. gone. That's a 98-yard fumble recovery for a score to get us on the board. Indianapolis's opening drive was almost 5 minutes long, and they come away with nothing. So Tulsa takes a 7-0 lead. Just a crazy play. At this point, I thought nothing was going to stop Tulsa on this day.
And yeah, when you kind of get those lucky bounces, so to speak, and things start kind of going your way, the things that aren't in your control, they just kind of naturally come to you. That's when it kind of feels like the game script is in your favor.
Colin Pierce, just before the half, with his best throw of the day, past the outstretched arms of Jay Rock, and there he is. Ryan Roosevelt with the score, 7-7 at the break. 3rd down and 6. Tulsa needs a play. Who you going to call? Gabriel Manning. JQ, nice ball off the back foot. 1st down for Manning, but both Manning and Roosevelt were a little quiet in this game. Didn't really live up to the hype, but instead it's Jay Viper stealing the show in the second half. Viper makes one man miss, gets a key block, and no one's going to lay a hand on him. Touchdown Indianapolis. So we had a 98-yard fumble return. We had a near 100-yard kick return, and Indianapolis retakes the lead 14-10 with 6:38 to go in the 3rd quarter. Just a ridiculous return from Viper. Then everyone else started getting going in the receiving core for Indy. Rob Hunt with the 1st down catch. And then later in the drive, it was Jeff Banfield. This is what Indy needs out of their pass game. More diversity. They got it in the second half. That was the difference in the game.
Yeah, whenever teams know that you're mainly trying to scheme in Ryan Roosevelt and then trying to use Christian Pierce to finish off drives, you can become a little one-dimensional. So it's paramount to find ways to get your other targets involved.
Defense stepped up. Menor with the sack, and then Adam Wisman with the pick with 2:24 as Tulsa was trying to threaten and cut the deficit to a 3-point game, but it's Adam Wisman taking charge. He took charge of the interview with Ashley Jackson on PGI after Indy's 24-10 win.
Welcome back to PGI, where I am joined with a great friend of mine, Mr. Adam Wisman. He is, head coach, co-owner, and offensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Ramblers. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, Ashley. It's a good day to be a Rambler.
Hey, I know it is. Any victory, what is it? Victory Sunday is a good day,
Yep. Victory Sundays are always fun.
Absolutely. But it was almost not a victory. Just watching the game, kind of watching some of the highlights. It was very slow in the first half, like no points scored until like maybe towards the end, like 30 seconds left in the second quarter. And then it just seems like a flip switched and you guys were just on a roll. So kind of go over what happened in your mind during this game.
Yeah, so, we started off, we were moving the ball the first drive, get down to the 1, have the unfortunate fumble that Tulsa was able to return. And you're kind of thinking, oh, no, here we go again. And, we battled back, got points up on the board late in that first half. And, then we got the big return from Viper, and that kind of kickstarted us. And once we're ahead, I feel like that's where our offense really shines with Christian Pierce and letting him just do his thing and Joel Harleman back there. So, we want to try to get the early lead and then just kind of beat you into the ground and make you succumb.
There you go. Well, that you did. You were able to get that off. So what changed? Because you guys seem like you were kind of struggling there for the beginning of the part of the season.
Well, I didn't. I think part of that was the schedule. We played first 6 games. We played 4 playoff teams, and then we did flip a switch. We made a change. Me and Chad switched sides of the ball, and since then we've gone 3-1. So I say I know nothing about offense. Chad says he knows nothing about defense, but apparently we know something. So we're just going to kind of let this roll and see how we finish the season.
I agree. Sometimes you need fresh eyes and a fresh outlook on things in order to kind of see things differently. So you guys are on the right path. Good luck to you for the rest of the season, Adam.
I appreciate it. Have a good one, Ashley.
You too. Back to you in the booth.
Thank you, Ashley. All right, we're gonna take me off camera because everyone wants to look at Stephen Hacker. Jack Wall, $5 super chat. Hacker looks like a small town gas station attendant who ends up being the key to the plot in a college student film. I'm just glad I'm so forgettable. Like nobody's ever talking about me, and that's just fine with me. Let's put up the Central Division standings here because it's a mess. I mean, Indy gets a win. They're now in the lead of this division. Tulsa's fallen back because they're 0-2 in the division. They got to pick up a couple of big wins. They've got they still have 2 division games left, as does Sioux Falls. Sioux Falls lost to Minnesota already this season. Minnesota's got the best resume at 4-11 SOV, but I don't know who's going to come out of this on top. Every time I think I know, Hack, I don't. It's going to be a wild finish.
Yeah, this is the one you look at, and it definitely feels like you could just draw a name out of a hat, and you probably have a better chance of getting it right. I think every single one of these teams has been in favor one way or the other. Minnesota most favored, but all of these teams have gotten some kind of recognition in terms of people thinking that they could win this division. But I mean, this is the toughest one to tell right now. Indianapolis has really done some things, the last 3 or 4 weeks, as Adam just mentioned, that have changed things for them, and it's worked out really well for them. So if they can carry that momentum into the playoff seeding, that might work out in their favor really nicely, because right now it's anybody's division to win there.
Okay, so back in May, the SFL talked. We're in this weird transition period with team number 28, and we talked about the North Division champion. There's only 3 teams in the division, so maybe the automatic spot wouldn't be guaranteed. That could also affect the Central Division champion, who is having a really hard time right now. Let's just revisit what's going on here with these playoff rules. All right, so at the bottom, we've got all the relevant teams right now in this equation. If the division winner from the North has the same record as the 12th best record at the end of the regular season, the North Division winner will clinch an automatic playoff berth. So the first question is, do they have the same record at the end of the regular season? Well, they have a better record, so that's good for Canton. Second bullet point, if the division winner from the North has a worse record than the 12th best record, then the North Division winner will not be granted a divisional automatic berth. Well, right now, Canton has a better record than the 12th best team, but it's a game and a half separating, Hack, with 2 to go, so that has not been clinched yet. Canton has not clinched a playoff spot. Here's another interesting component to this. If any other division winner has the same or worse record as the North Division winner, which Indianapolis does at 4-6, and both have a worse record than the 12th best record, then neither division will clinch. Well, fortunately for Indy, Canton is not worse than the 12th best record, which means that Indy would clinch the Central if things worked out today. So in a weird way, Hack, Canton is Indy's best friend right now, because as long as they continue to win, Indy or anyone else from that Central Division will be able to clinch their division automatically and maybe leave someone else out of the playoff picture later in the season. Do you have any thoughts on the middle and the muddy of the playoff picture before we move on?
Well, I think that, Canton already has quite a bit of fans, and now they just added the whole Central Division as potential fans for them as well.
Yes.
So really, really clean and shop when it comes to, fandom right now. But, I think the most interesting thing is just you got to watch how these games, are going to pan out. So I think the most interesting thing from this graphic is going to be what are the next 3 games for Canton. And then you can kind of start trying to maybe predict your way into, well, how worried should the Central Division truly be? But I think in the middle of you reading all of this, I heard faintly in my headphones somewhere that Hunter Norwood from Jack's Data was just absolutely screaming, because these playoff scenarios every year now, Cam, are just getting more and more difficult. But you know what? You find more ways to keep to challenge our brains and make us work for it. But I know Hunter is over there scrambling, trying to make his playoff scenario sheet work out.
Adam is correct. Indy would be in today if the playoffs started today. And welcome back to to Cliff Allen to the show. Canton plays Carolina next week, so that is interesting stuff. Okay, don't want to forget about Baltimore, the 4-time defending champions. Don't forget that. They're now 7-3. They were losing to Queen City 17-7 in this game. They won 42-20 with 549 yards of total offense. They led the league in offensive yards production coming in. Outscored Queen City 28-3 in the second half. Corsairs have some good pieces. You can tell that they're starting to piece some things together, but they may be a season away. Baltimore, they put them down in the second half.
Man, and that was a team that everybody loved to hate when they were losing those games. But they've like, as you mentioned, they figured it out. They're starting to put it together, and they've really quieted a lot of the doubters, a lot of the people that were hoping on their demise and their failure. Baltimore is right back where they need to be, or where they want to be, I should say, which is competing for a playoff spot and potentially another SFL title.
So let's get to the road to the championship, presented by Zolnir Championship Rings. This is Week 11's edition. Not a whole lot of movement at the top. The top 7 pretty much the same as last week. Some SOV shufflings going on as well, but it's pretty standard up there. Carolina does move into the 8th seed on their bye with Louisiana's loss, and now your wild card road teams consist of the Central Division leader and then 3 teams that are at 500, including the DC Dragons, who play Jacksonville tonight in a critical game for them. They can get to 5-4 and try and fight with Carolina for a home game there. San Diego jumps up to 10th. They were all the way down to 17th at one point last week with their win, and then Louisiana sits at 11th right now. Look at all the 4 and 5s under the line. We talked about it earlier, Hack, in the show, how Houston at 378, they are way behind. Portland has the best resume at 497 SOV, so they are still in the thick of it, and that can even shoot up higher if they were to somehow upset Fort Worth, as that game is next on the docket for both those teams. Vancouver's in the worst spot, but they still have Seattle left. Then you got LA and Charleston and Vegas, who was off this week, also in the thick of things there. It's always crazy this time of year, but what sticks out to you as we update the standings with one more game to go here in Week 11?
I really, really wish I could just focus on something other than SOV, but I just know in these playoff scenarios that is the one. That's the one that, if you don't hold the divisional or any of that stuff, most of the time it's going to boil down to that strength of victory. So my eyes always just go right to that chart. And, again, it's these middle of the pack teams, the teams under the line, Vegas, Charleston, Los Angeles. Those are very, very healthy strength of victory numbers, Portland included. So what my message to those teams is, you just need to take care of business 1 week at a time, and you will have done everything that you can do. You have to win the games in front of you. You've already done everything you can do with this season that's here. So now you have the benefit of having a really high strength of victory. Again, anything plus 400 is great. That's going to put you in a really good spot come playoff scenario time. So these teams that are above 400, well above 400 right now, those are the teams that you may want to keep an eye on. A loss there could significantly reduce their chances of where they're going to fall in playoff seeding. So watch those teams under the line, see how their next couple of games go, watch that strength of victory climb, and then the teams that are already looking in the holding down a playoff spot, watch their records as well, because that's going to be that critical tiebreaker.
Couple of huge games coming up next week. Vancouver plays Houston. LA plays San Diego. That is a critical game. We talked about Carolina playing Canton next week, 2 of the top 8 teams in the league right now. Baltimore takes on an Atlanta team that is totally desperate, that needs to win out next week on the Monday Night Spectacular. And, of course, those were the 2 top teams in the league last year, as Baltimore continues to climb and Atlanta has been up and down. So that's a look at your road to the championship this week. All right, so coming up next on the Monday Night Spectacular, the DC Dragons at 4-4. They go to Jacksonville for the first time since the Hurricane game. Were you around, Hack, back to season 6? Is that before your time?
Oh, man, that's well before my time.
It's the only game ever played on heavy rain setting, because there was a literal hurricane in Jacksonville when the game was actually being played. And, that game was wild. But
I remember the highlights of
Yeah.
Yep.
First time DC has been to Jacksonville since then, and now Jacksonville put a roof on their place, so we don't have to worry about the weather tonight. But the DC Dragons in the thick of it. Jacksonville, they pretty much have to win out. They're 2-6. They've struggled this season. Let's get to the matchup comparison. Let's start with the bad. Jacksonville is dead last in the league in turnovers, dead last in the league in scoring defense. They've been really inefficient on third downs. And those those components of the game is really what has plagued Jacksonville. They're not a bad team. They're not getting blown out by people, at least over the last month, but they just cannot string together these victories. What's keeping them in the game is their front seven, second in TFLs, fourth in the league in sacks. So a bit of a mixed bag for Jacksonville, but they got to have this one tonight at home, and DC's got to make a statement if they want any shot at winning the division. They got to clean it up, go out and get a road win tonight. Your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I think the key to me is Jacksonville's going to be their defensive front seven. If they want to, I think if they want to disrupt this ball game, it's going to start there. The Dragons quarterback Shabazz Synergy, they've shown like they want to throw the ball a little bit more. They're going to rely on Kevin Say for sure. But in previous weeks, it looks like they're coming out and they're trying to throw the ball a little bit more. So I think that could spell disaster for DC. That would be my thing to watch. But if you have a serious weapon like Lauren Percoco at tight end, I don't blame the Dragons for wanting to throw a little bit more to try and explore some of their playbook. But I think this is a game where you can control the trenches if you're DC, and I would expect if it was me and if I was putting the strategy in, I would go heavy Kevin Say this week and try to grind out Jacksonville on the road. I feel like that's their best chance at getting a victory here. Control the ground game and play solid defense.
Tyler Falk will be here with me tonight to call the game. Hack, thanks for joining us on This Week in the SFL, and it was another fun week to break down. 3 weeks left in the regular season. Can you believe it? It's going to be a wild finish once again. Your final thoughts?
Yeah, the season they just blow by so fast. You can add more weeks to it if you want, but it just seems like we just burn through them so fast. But it's always a great time. I think time flies when you're having fun. As far as tonight's show, my mustache, you have the mailing address. I expect the check to be in the mail with all these super chats coming in. So just, checks in the mail. I'm waiting for it. But had a great time being here. Miss Mike O'Neill, wish he was here. I love watching him every week, but happy to fill in. Love getting a chance to be here with the community and with you, and had a great time.
That to finish our show, that is just too good of a chat message not to read. Hacker looks like he discovered a new raptor and named him Hackersaurus. So there you go. For Stephen Hacker, I'm Cameron Irvine. Coming up, DC and Jacksonville, the Monday Night Spectacular. Can't wait to call it alongside Tyler. This has been This Week in the SFL. We'll see you next week.